Mr. Paul Hamilton, his appearance brought to you by Raylax Honda. We're going to recap the Sabres weekend that was. A couple of trades, lots of draft picks, a decentralized draft that took forever, the first round. Forever. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
All right. How'd you like the decentralized draft?
Oh, it's awful. that might have been the worst television I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not exaggerating. That ESPN should be as embarrassed could be, and the NHL. That was horrendous. The second day was much better. I thought the NHL Network did a much better job, but that first day was an utter embarrassment.
For people that weren't tuned in, what about it was so bad?
Well, they're trying to do interviews because, of course, the GMs and everything aren't there, so they bring the pick over to do it. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and you see these GMs with a deer in headlights just looking like, well, are we going to talk or aren't we going to talk? Or, you know, and they just such goofy, we really liked you. Hi, how are ya? It's like, stop. I mean, it was just, everything was just so forced and fake, and I don't think the analysis was good at all. I mean, nobody was really talking about I don't think they knew the players that well, quite honestly. Whereas in the past, I think they had analysts on there who did know the players that are being drafted and the needs of teams and that type of thing, and it just wasn't there at all.
Yeah. No one on the panel was like a dedicated prospect person.
No. Where's Mel Kiper, is what you're saying?
That would be funny. The Draft House interviews, for sure, Paul, and the length of it. I really was wondering because, like, I wonder how the owners think of it because they voted 26-6, I saw, to have a decentralized draft. I wonder if they'd almost be mad at ESPN or the league because if you wanted to see what that looked like, it feels like you got like the worst effort possible. Like I'm sure the owners were imagining something 1,000 times better when they voted to have it.
You know what the owners were imagining is saving money. That's what the owners were imagining.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have to move their whole operation, charter a plane, and move a whole operation to another city. So they were envisioning saving money.
Right. But like for it to continue, you need it to be a little bit better than it was. And if they go right back to the way that it has been, you know what I mean? Like they would want the league and the ESPN to put a real effort in because if they want to save money, well, like I guess it's only a 1-year thing now because it was so bad. I can't imagine they do it again.
This is the NHL, so I don't.
Yeah.
You think they could?
I don't put any bets on that.
I think it's more likely Bettman comes out and says our fans said it was their favorite draft of all time. That's what he tends to do. So, all right, Paul, well, the draft class itself, the Sabres go in the first round with a right shot defenseman, big guy, right shot defenseman in the third round, big guy, lots of big guys, lots of defensemen, and right shot. You know, there's a trade in there as well. So clearly attacking a position of need as they saw it.
Yeah, and don't forget, too, the Sabres have used second-round picks the 2 years before. Last year, Adam Kleber is a right-handed shooting defenseman, and the year before, Malcolm Sturbeck is a right-handed shooting defenseman. Both are playing in college hockey right now, so it's something they had been doing, and it also helps their prospect pool get a little bit bigger. I mean, if you look at, you know, basically for a while it was, you know, draft Team Munchkin with skill and just outskill them. Well, that's great. You need skill. You really do. But the Florida Panthers have shown us the past couple of years you need skill and size to go with it. You know, the Panthers can play any type of hockey you want to play because they have the team to do it. They have size. They have skill. Their skill players, for the most part, are big. And they can just grind you down in the playoffs. The playoffs are a grind, and if you just have little guys that, you know, are getting slapped around the whole time, and they're just going to wear out on you. You know, if you're going to go on a playoff run. So, you know, obviously with the draft, that's something they had in mind.
Was that the case with Mertka, too, for you, Paul, their 9th overall pick? He is definitely big. I mean, he's 6'6". But I have seen a lot of description of him as maybe not, like, he's not he wasn't drafted that high because he's the meanest guy in the world. Like he uses his size in a different way, which is more common, I think, in today's game.
Yeah, Butkowski, the third-round pick, he is the meanest guy in the world, but not not Murtka. At 18, he had a lot going on when he got to Seattle. He's coming over, found out he wasn't as good at English as he thought he was, and he had a problem with that, and was just trying to get himself used to playing in the Western Hockey League, which is a league that is a tough league to play in. So, I think that will, as he plays there, I'm sure he will play there again next year. Something that I think will help him with that too. I mean, he'll realize it. But, he's a good two-way defenseman. He's a guy that, for his size, I think can move well. Now, he talked about he wants to get his skating better. But, anything I've seen of him, I thought he moved pretty well. So, can guys grow into it? Well, some can, some can't. But he's going to play in a league where, to survive, you might have to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah. Well, Paul, they want to be tougher to play against. They've added a couple pieces here. The Peterka trade. Then there's the Connor Clifton trade as well. So we've seen them make some roster moves. Are they a better hockey team today, or is very much the message right now the offseason has just begun? Would Kevin Adams want to preach patience on what they're still going to do?
For me, they're very much incomplete today. Specifically, Timmins for Clifton, yes, they're a better team. Clifton, nicest guy in the world, and I think he was liked in the locker room. But especially for a third pair guy, I mean, way too many turnovers. He wound up, being a healthy scratch because of it. They just couldn't do it, or taking too many penalties. Lindy Ruff has kept pounding the table. We got to stop with the penalties. Well, he was one of the guys that didn't stop with the penalties. But it's the turnovers when he's under pressure, turning the puck over, and quite often it would wind up in the net. It just had to stop, and it wasn't. And I had heard, and I think we have talked about it when the season ended, that Lindy Ruff just wasn't satisfied with that. He felt they needed to get better in some areas, and I know that was an area right there on the third pair. You can't have, because your third pair most of the time isn't playing the top six guys against the top six guys. And when they're turning the puck over and the puck's in the net and you're handing it to the guys who aren't the top six guys, it just you can't have that. So Lindy Ruff definitely has more of a say in the roster, and I felt even before Kevin Adams talked about this, and when I was on the air, I talked about it, that this was, I think, a trade maybe for Lindy Ruff.
And Timmins, Paul, just quickly on him, because if anyone that doesn't know him pulls up his stat page, they might go, okay, this guy's he's barely played in the league, relatively. He's been in the league, he's appeared in 6 seasons, only 159 games. But I don't know, this might be one of those savvier moves where you look at some of the numbers in Pittsburgh and his ability as a puck mover and think, like what you just said, that this is a better third-pair defenseman than what they had in Clifton.
Yeah, he certainly isn't going to play with Dahlin, or if he does, it's going to be trouble. I mean, you have to understand the limitations of what you got there. And the limitations are you want him on your third pair, and if you keep him on the third pair and don't play him out of place, I'll go back more than a couple of years. Josh Georges was that. I mean, Josh Georges, they were forcing him onto the top pair, and he wasn't very good. Then all of a sudden they put him on the third pair, and it's like, well, wait a minute, Josh Georges is playing pretty well here. And because they had him out of position. He wasn't a top pair guy. So, and Timmins isn't a top pair guy. But if you keep him where he should be, I think he's going to be just fine, and I think the turnovers will be reduced. He can step into Clifton's penalty killing role, and again, I do think they've improved in that area.
With that being said, I would ask you about Byram now, because I think anyone that would do the defense groups on paper right now, you might just put Byram with Dahlin just because he's still on the team and they played together a lot last year. Adams talking about Byram, Paul, and being open to him coming back, and we've talked so much and have assumed, I think, for so long now that he would be traded. Do you think that's just Adams talking that way just in case a deal doesn't get done? Do you still feel that the most likely outcome for Byram is that he will be traded and we'll be talking about somebody else that opens the season with Dahlin?
I think Adams is right in what he says. It doesn't necessarily have to be. If it has to be done, it doesn't necessarily have to be done this year. Because if you just sign Bo Byram to a one-year contract and do it again next year, if you just don't like the trades that you've been seeing and maybe you're going to continue to try to trade him, but all right, let's sign him to a one-year deal. Bo Byram is not going to pout. Bo Byram is going to come out and give you everything he has. J.J. Peterka pouted last year at times, and you could see it on the ice. And he addressed that at the end of the year, that his body language needs to be better. That's not what's going to happen with Bo Byram if he's here for another year or two. Because the Sabres are looking for better value or a better trade. I don't think you have to worry about him if it's not done. It seems like from what Adams said the other day that, as he said, they've been transparent both ways that, they're the Sabres, they've explained to him what they're going to do to make the team better and what they want to do with him to help him and to help him maybe feel more part of, not part of the team, but more towards the role of what he wants. And the only thing I think if you sign him and keep him here and tell him he's going to play with Dahlin, that's basically what he wants because he's going to get top pair minutes. He's going to be out there all the time against the other team's best players. The only thing he's not going to do is be on the power play because Dahlin and Power have that. So, all right, can he live with that, playing top pair minutes and being on the top pair and on the ice all the time for that, but you're not going to be on the power play? I mean, that's something they would have to talk to him about. But and obviously with what Adams said, he wanted to hear about what's the plan moving forward. I don't want to sit here if we're going to lose for another 5 years. What's the plan to make this team better, to get us in the playoffs and get us headed in the right direction here?
Paul, that idea, in the right direction, I feel like a GM that's getting another year, I don't know if he's surprised to get another year or he pleads his case and he feels very safe, but I guess I want to see any bit of desperation or real aggressiveness. The Peterka move sounds like it's something they kind of had to do. And they felt like they maybe had to do, and they got something for it, and that's fine. Maybe they feel like they're better defensively. But whether it's something in goal or really aggressively getting after their top six, as you're laying out Byram, he could stay. I think, all right, well, then what avenue will they take to get better? And for a GM that's, I don't know, I would like to think he's got some sort of make the playoffs or else, compete or else. Is there going to be a move in there that looks like that? It looks like the GM is feeling like he's got to get something done.
I don't know. This is just my impression. I don't think Terry Pegula is the or else guy. But I talked about what we heard with Byram. I didn't like what I heard when we talked about, well, all right, you've made yourself better defensively with Kesselring, and I think fans are going to enjoy watching Kesselring play, but you've also lost 27 goals off your team. And Adams almost talked like he's setting the fans up for, well, Benson and Quinn could, we've got them, and they, we're looking to them to take the next step, and we're not worried about that. We're more worried about keeping pucks out of our net because we got to get much better defensively. Well, that's not wrong, but it was almost like they were saying, he said, I'm not sure we're going to be able to, do what you guys are thinking, and but Benson and Quinn are young players, and we're expecting them to get better. And he didn't say that's the end result. Yeah. But he kind of well, if that's what we have, we'll be fine because I know they're going to work hard and get better. And I thought, no, that's not. Hope is not a strategy. In goal, hope is not a strategy. Hoping that one of the two or both of the two young goaltenders are going to really hit their stride next year, or that Benson and Quinn are going to hit their stride next year. That's hoping. And if you're going to hope, you're going to be out of the playoffs for the 15th straight year because hope is not a strategy. So whatever the strategy is, it has to be better than, well, we've got guys. Because how many years have we heard now? We got guys, especially after the year where they all had career years. Well, why do we got to do it? We got guys, and they're only going to get better. They had career years, and they're only going to get better. Okay. Yeah, Peterka got better.
The rest maybe regressed.
Yeah. Luukkonen got better for 35 games, and then that regressed again. So, that just, to me, that's unacceptable. That is not what they need to do. They need to find some top 6 forwards. And if you trade Byram, that would be where you can look in free agency. You can look in, other trades. You essentially have to get Alex Tuch signed. You just have to, because if you don't, that is a huge step backwards for this team. So, and, Timmins, just for that one particular thing, you were trying to get better at that one particular area. Yeah, you went for it there. Yeah, you threw a second-round pick in there. If you boil it down, is Timmins worth a second-round pick in Clifton? I don't know, but you made yourself better. Do you need a second-round pick right now? No. How many picks do you have? How many prospects do you have? So I kind of, as soon as the first thing I said, I couldn't care less about the second-round pick. Whatever. I'm more interested, did you get better in the positions you're trying to get better in? And you did. You threw a second-round pick in, and I couldn't have cared less.
So how do they get their hands, Paul, on top 6 forward if they go for a goalie? There's the Byram piece, but beyond that, I guess how hard do you expect them to push tomorrow? Will we see them sign? I mentioned Zucker earlier. Maybe a guy they can get to sign on a 1 or a 2 year deal because they're willing to give him a couple million more than maybe somebody else is. Do you think that's likely for them, that they will? At least one forward, maybe a goalie, that they are going to push for that tomorrow?
Well, July 1st is stupid time anyway. And it's overpayment, and it's going to come to a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for 14 years. It's going to have to be a severe overpayment. If they're looking in free agency. So, you can find other ways trade-wise to get those players, especially teams that are looking for other things and maybe are looking for younger players or things like that. But it can't be, it takes 2 to trade. It's difficult. You got to have a trading partner. I understand it's hard. I get it. And it's your job. And you didn't do your job the last 2 years, the 2 off seasons, for whatever the reason. Maybe it was too hard or whatever. Well, if it's too hard for you, let's find a GM that's not too hard for, because it has to be done, and you have to find a way to do it. And you have to have a trading partner. You have to have this, or it's a hard sell. Yeah, I know it is. And if you want to be a champion, you better get it done.
Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline. All right, Paul, we'll be ready to talk tomorrow as the Sabres look for, some help somewhere. Maybe they find their next Jason Zucker, which did work out well. I'll just say, sometimes we read stories about how they might have been scared off of idea XYZ because it didn't go well. In the case of Zucker, that worked out really well. Maybe that encourages them to try and do something similar with a player this year. Zucker was, I think when they signed, viewed as a little bit of an overpay, and everything worked out really well there. So maybe we see them do that again. We'll see.
Yeah, with the production they wound up with, it wasn't an overpay.
Right.
But at the time, yes. I was neutral about it when they signed him. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was like, okay, whatever.
Yep.
And it turned into more than whatever.
Another guy like that.
And he... And the same with goaltending. Free agent goaltending is not very good this year. So if they're going to add to the goaltending, I think in a significant way, it's going to have to be done through a trade.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Paul Hamilton joining us. His appearance brought to you by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this on free agency. Head